welcome to Well Behaved, where we unpack sobriety, womanhood, current events, pop culture, and the messiness of life. I'm Carter.
And I'm Bree.
Welcome to the pod. Episode 6.
I think this is episode 6.
It is episode 6. Wow. I'm so proud.
I'm so proud of us too, honestly. We said we were going to do something and we did it, which is amazing. And I need to start by talking about my weekend. So I had a bachelorette in Miami for one of my
That's
best
right.
friends. And it's interesting, though, the longer I'm sober, the less I worry about bachelorettes going into them or like weddings going into them. But I had a really, really fucking hard time with this bachelorette. On the Friday night, we went to Bagatelle and I was with a party heavy crew, like super fun group of girls. And I was just having such a hard time. And I just think it's important to talk about because I feel like sobriety is not linear and like there are so many ups and downs. I'm like about to hit 2 years alcohol free in June. And this was the hardest time I've ever had not drinking my entire sobriety. So I just think that's important to share. I didn't drink, but like, you know, the alcoholic brain is a little bit scary. And sometimes you convince yourself that like you could sneak away and do it without anyone knowing. And that thought did cross my mind a few times, which is like so terrifying. But I didn't drink and I made it through a bachelorette in Miami. And I hope to never do that again. I hope to never, and I don't think I will. I think this is like the last big party bachelorette I'll ever go on. But
Yeah.
it was definitely challenging. So for anyone who sees my content and is like, wow, she's so cool, she crushed it. It's like, actually, no, I was like literally fighting for my life, but thank you so much.
No, it is weird how it does come in waves. Like sometimes something big like that would be totally easy. And then sometimes something big, you're kind of like, damn, I'm not drinking. And this kind of seems like it might be more fun if I was.
Yeah, for it, you know what? That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. And I think
And
and I think that also is that there are some things, and we've talked about this before, that are more fun if you're drinking.
yeah, and it just was
It
one of those. And I'm California sober, right? So like I do dabble in other things, and this was the first time where I've ever dabbled in other things, and it did not enhance my experience. It actually made it worse. It made me more anxious,
mm.
and so then it also made me take a look at that of like, okay, maybe I'm leaning on these other things a little bit too much, and so just evaluating things, But
No, that's good intel.
it is, and it's totally normal, and I just want everyone to know that. Anyway, what did you do last weekend?
What did I do this weekend? Oh, I had a friend in town. One of my best friends from high school was here, and so we bopped around, and I have such a hard time planning. I'm not a planner. And
Mhm.
so having people visit, it really is like you have to plan things in advance. You have to make reservations. No things that I'm good at. I'm not a planner. I'm not a reservation maker. So that's always a little bit challenging when someone comes to visit. But we had the best time. And for that kind of stuff, I love not drinking. It's amazing. My friend drinks. She would have but I loved that it wasn't someone in town who wanted to go out. She's not a goer outer. She had drinks at dinner when we went out to dinner, and then we went home and we were in bed at 10 o'clock, and it was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So it is just, oh, and also shout out San Ambrose, which is like one of my favorite restaurants in the city. They had like a full non-alc wine list. And
Love.
so it was amazing because we had a fancy dinner Friday night and the princess cake. I don't know if anyone's had it, but the princess cake at San Ambrose, one of the best things on this earth. And I had like a glass of NA red wine with it. It was amazing.
Yeah, it is upsetting how little restaurants have NA wine on the menu. It's like so not a thing. And every time I ask about it, they're like, well, it's because no one orders it. And I'm like, because you don't have it on the menu. Like, I think if you had a good NA red on the menu, I would be ordering it every time, 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, to have an actual selection was crazy. Like, I do feel like sometimes you see it, but it'll be like one or even mocktails a lot are usually some sort of tonic. It's not something that I like, but it was so nice to have a glass of wine at a restaurant. So shout out San Ambrose, just one of the many, many reasons that I'm obsessed with that place.
I love that for you. Um, okay, so we've got a lot of pop culture stuff to dive into today, guys. The first thing we want to discuss is more of a current events situation and not a pop culture situation. We want to talk about the Make America Hot Again dating event in New York City. This event was on the Lower East Side, and boy, did I try to find out what venue it was at, and I came up completely dry. Could not find a thing. I did a lot of research. I have a feeling they don't want to be found. And that's okay. People are allowed to host events like this, and that's freedom of speech, and you can do what you want. Basically, this event was for conservative young people in New York City who were trying to date. and meet other conservative young people. Carter, did you see this video?
I did see this video. When you sent it to me, I was like, "Yep, saw that." I think, and I can't remember if it was the video itself that said this or this was just in the comments, but what people were noticing about it is how beholden to these strict traditional gender roles that these people like just their obsession with it and their obsession with you falling in line with what they expect and themselves falling in line with what they expect out of a woman or a man. And that kind of go just this obsession with what men are supposed to be like and what women are supposed to be like. It's creepy.
Yeah, it is creepy. And there was a lot of contradictions. And listen, I can argue both sides, right? I did this is some of my lore. I did the Peace Corps. I did AmeriCorps in the US after I graduated college with a lot of
Wow.
super, super, super liberal people and almost too liberal, right? Where they could not see the other side and they were contradictory as well. So I'm not saying this is just isolated to conservatives. But there was a lot of contradictions in this video. So one guy said, unfortunately, liberal women look at having a family as a burden and they look at marriage as the patriarchy. I want everyone to know that I am a liberal woman and I can't wait to have a family. I'm so excited about it. I don't think it's a burden at all. I also love my family. And I don't think marriage is about the patriarchy anymore. I think I chose to step into marriage as like a partnership with a man I love who I want to build a life with. So I'm just gonna debunk that right there. Like, I thought that was so silly. I was like, "You're just speaking in blanket terms for every" like, I
It's
just don't
and it
understand.
is like all these things that they get so fired up about, I feel like are sensationalized versions of things that are not even true.
Totally.
Women are just saying not everyone wants to get married, not everyone wants to have kids, and the way that they talk about it, like liberal women are just setting a flame. But again, this is the whole thing is they have such strict guidelines for how things are supposed to be and what people are supposed to want and what's supposed to make people happy that any deviation from their norm, they freak out.
I from a psychology standpoint, I'm always trying to figure out what they're protecting themselves from, and, like,
Yeah.
I don't understand how it's beneficial to them for everyone to be exactly the same and to like the exact same things and to function the same. I just don't see how that's useful unless they feel so unstable and rattled in their core and their beliefs that they need everyone to agree so that they actually feel solidified in them, which is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, and I think it's because they themselves, in a perfect world, follow such strict guidelines. I say air quotes because they don't really even follow the rules that they set out for themselves, but it makes them so uncomfortable to see people living a life not bound by all those rules that they hold themselves to. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of
Yeah.
think about it as like a coloring outside the lines thing. It's like, oh, this person wants to be a woman and this person wants to be gay. It's like, yeah, and that's perfectly fine. If you want to live that strict life with all those weird gender roles and weird gender rules and identities, you know, that's all well and good, but it makes them uncomfortable to see other people, you know, able to get out and live their truth, I guess. I think about that sometimes.
Yeah. It makes me think they're not really allowed to live their truth and that's why they're so angry. But that's a conversation for another day.
And now we said it.
And now we said it. The other thing was funny was this guy on the interview. He said, liberal women are inherently selfish. And then they panned to this conservative young woman, and she said that her money in marriage is for clothing and fun things, and the man's money is for her and providing for the family. So it was just like a complete contradiction. Like she was just being so selfish. I just
It's
find it's just super off putting and it's super extremist and like it's interesting. It was the only video I could find on it. It was a Guardian video on the
they really thought
Guardian.
they did something. We'll just say that.
Yeah, and it made me kinda sad, like, I don't know, it just makes me sad that people think that way. I mean, listen, there is nothing that makes me feel worse for people, it makes me sad, it makes me confused about why people care if people identify as gay or trans or lesbian or, like, anyone who's judging or putting judgment on the LGBTQIA+ population, like, why do you literally care? Like, it literally has nothing to do with you.
Fucking bizarre. That's
It's
all I have to say
weird, like,
about it.
you're creepy yeah, you're creepy and weird, like, just let people live their truth. If they're not bothering you, why do you care?
And again, if you want to live your life by these weird strict rules, be my guest, but
But
nobody
leave
else
my
has
friends
to.
alone. Leave my friends alone. So, that was interesting, and I hope no more events like that take place in the near future because Carter and I will have to go for market research.
And we did notice that it was all weirdos. Coincidence? I don't think so. So
Yeah.
that we had to talk about that. There's a lot of very random pop culture shit going on this week. Should we first get out of the way Jen Fessler and West? Let's just get the West convo out up top.
Yes. Okay. And I need you to, and this is great for any of our listeners who aren't totally versed on Bravo stuff. I'm not totally familiar with who Jen Fessler is. So can you break this down for me?
So she's from Housewives of New Jersey. I'm not totally caught up on like the last season of Jersey, but she's from Housewives of New Jersey and she's in her later 50s. That's really all you need to know.
And she's
Um,
married.
and she's married. She's very much married, and she brought herself into this conversation by, I don't know if it was a comment or an interview or what, but she went very male-centered and said, "West is just a golden retriever. All he ever wanted to do was love anybody. Basically, why are y'all being mean to him?" And the internet acted swiftly, as did Sierra. Sierra came up in the comments and said, "Yeah, because they slept together too." Mic fucking drop.
So Wes sleeping with her is interesting because she's married and she's been married, correct?
Yes, she is married and she's been married. And it is just interesting because a lot of videos obviously came out of the woodwork after her original comment and then Sierra's comment back. And the videos of them together, the couple times that they've been at appearances and stuff together, Jen and West, I mean, very flirty. You can tell when, especially an older woman, like a younger guy, on Bravo. Like I'm just picturing when Luann and what's his name from Southern Hospitality, when they
Mhm.
hooked up, then looking back at the footage of them together, they were so flirty with each other. And I think because of the age difference, when you first see it, you don't really think anything of it. But then when something like this comes out, you look at it and you're like, they are flirting. And that's exactly when I watched this old footage of West and Jen together, they are so flirting with each other. So I personally totally believe this.
Yeah, I don't think Sierra
I don't
is
think
not the
Sierra
type to
would.
impulsively comment things that aren't true.
No, she's not at all. And then
And I
Jen posted the weird kind of threatening message basically about, I will sue you. Okay, do
dude,
it. You can't because it's true. And that's just
also
my
it's
honest
sad.
opinion.
Okay, so my one initial thought is like West could flirt with a wall, right? Like we could drink with a wall, West could flirt with a wall. We've seen it this whole
Right.
season. We've seen it with Amanda. We've seen it with Sierra. We've seen it with Bailey when he's like super touchy with her. He's even touchy with Lindsay Hubbard. Like he's just touchy.
He is.
It once again, and I know we have said this, like once again, we're back to talking about Amanda and West because this all circles back to this week's episode. They have a very intimate moment, very, where he is hugging her, hands in her hair, kissing her temple, and saying, I love you. And I had to rewind. Me and my husband were watching. I rewinded twice to watch through it. My jaw was on the floor.
My jaw was on the floor. And it really was. The intimate touching. Again, like you just said, Wes is a very touchy guy, and I also have guy friends that I am touchy with and jokey with, and that was not what I was looking at. That's
No,
not. I never do it.
their bodies were pressed against each other.
I don't do that with my guy friends.
Her tits were pressed against his chest.
It was sexual in nature. It was sexual in nature.
It was 100% sexual. Like that was second base, third base, maybe. I don't know what was going on there,
100%.
but it's just not looking
And
good for him. It's getting worse and worse.
yeah, and I've been a big proponent of, nothing happened until January, February. And I think I still am, but there's no fucking way from what we're seeing is already really way too close. That's a long time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not looking great for them. So that's interesting. Next week, we obviously see Sierra and West kiss. And so that just is another layer to this mess.
Kind of actually shook me to my absolute core even more. that makes me feel so bad for her that he did her dirty and she never gave him she's been giving him hell the last 2 years, being super cold to him, but, she's gone and made out with him, and then, we had heard that there was some rumor that they had gone on and hooked up after the summer.
Yeah, which I'm sure they did.
Oh god, it's not good,
I'm
it's not
sure they
good.
did. Yeah, I have, like, a pit in my stomach thinking about her watching all this back now, knowing everything she knows, and it's just, like, it's sick. Like, that's just so messed up. Anyone who's been, like, betrayed by a friend like that too when there's a guy involved, like, it just is, like, it's the deepest cut, you know?
And the over the top performative friend role that Amanda's playing is super fucking weird.
She's just fake as hell.
And we have to note that we don't think that they're still together.
No, nope,
What
they're not.
what a come down that's gonna be.
He was making out with a girl at a wedding, I saw a video.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. And also she didn't come, which I guess kinda makes sense because you wouldn't wanna cause a scene at someone's wedding. But I haven't seen a single rumbling of them being together
I'm
since
sorry,
they were
just
bar
backtrack for
hopping.
a second. He doesn't wanna cause a scene at someone's wedding. He's a 31-year-old man making out with a girl on the dance floor at someone's wedding. This isn't a fucking
There's
Sweet
that.
16. Like, go make out with someone in private.
It's so embarrassing. He's
No one's
so
doing dance floor
weird.
makeouts at 31 years old, let alone at someone's wedding. Like,
He's a
that's
child.
yeah, it's bizarre behavior. Anyway, ugh, my blood's already boiling. I feel like my blood
No, I
pressure's up
know.
just
Okay,
talking
we're
about it.
we're done. We're done until next week. We have to give it
We're done.
5 minutes every week, guys. Sorry.
All right, guys, we are so excited because we have a very special guest on tonight. Our friend Neva Coleman is here. Neva is sober, living in New York City. She is the sober version of Sex in the City, and we love her. And we are so excited that she's here. Welcome.
Thank you, girls. I'm happy to be here.
Yay. We want to hear all about your sobriety story. We also really want to talk tonight about dating, single life, and marriage in sobriety and what that looks like. We know you have a lot of experience. Carter, you also have a lot of experience.
I
And the
do.
only thing I have experience with is sober relationships and marriage. So we all come from different ends of this, which is great. Neva, do you want to kick us off and share a little bit about your sobriety story?
Yeah, so I'm 25. I live in New York, and I'm going to hit 1 year sober on Monday. So that's in a
Oh
couple
my
days from
gosh. Major.
now. Yeah, super exciting. That's actually my like clean and sober date, but my sobriety date from alcohol, I'm about 17 months sober from alcohol. So as we know, sobriety is whack-a-mole. It's not the thing that's killing you first. So my first one was alcohol, second was weed. My last beverage was a THC soda from a bodega down the street. And then that was wraps after that. um, but yeah, backtracking. I grew up in New Jersey in a small town on the Jersey Shore. I went to Tulane University in New Orleans, which is where my drinking really went from. I would argue misuse to abuse during that period. As we know, alcoholism is a progressive disease, and I think every year of college it got progressively worse. I eventually got sober from everything on May 18th of 2025, sober from alcohol on December 22nd of 2024. But that was not my first attempt at getting sober or trying to get my drinking under control, as we've all tried to do. I think the first time that I ever maybe acknowledged that my drinking habits were abnormal was, I guess, like junior year of college. I went to a really heavy party school. I didn't really stand out very much amongst other people. I was likely comparing myself to people who are also either now in recovery or should be. So, not a good measure there. Yeah, I had a couple of really bad experiences, but I kept drinking, regardless, as we've all done, like having, basically near death experiences and still picking up, a couple days a week later, after on Sunday swearing you would never drink again. And, eventually it got to my senior year and other people had sort of expressed their concerns. And so I got a therapist, and tried to do the whole moderation management thing, harm reduction, all of those tactics. And Shocker, none of them worked because I am an alcoholic. But, my drinking it just got worse, and my self-esteem got worse the more that I realized that I couldn't do these things like 1 drink an hour, 4 drinks a night, water between each drink, and um, the same thing happened every single time. It resulted in a blackout. And I even, after I graduated college, I was in such like a bad place mentally that I was kind of desperate to do anything to feel better. So I committed to a year of not drinking. It started off as a 90-day no drinking hiatus thing that kind of like a therapist suggested to me. And my mom had suggested it too, because she was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, you are so miserable and you were talking about how you can't stop drinking once you start. Like, why don't we do 90 days, no drinking? And I committed to that. Still was smoking, still was using mushrooms, which I had not done until I had stopped drinking. I was kind of just trying to replace. Um, and ended up kicking it to a full year. I did a whole year of not drinking. At the end of that year, I was like, you know what? I'm out of college. I have all these other things going for me. Like, I was able to not drink for a year. Like, I'll be fine. Um, After that, went on like a 3-month relapse, and my drinking was like even worse than it was before. Blackouts happened quicker. Didn't take very much for me to black out. Hangovers lasted longer. Anxiety and depression were, you know, so apparent to me after drinking. Like, instead of a 1 day situation, it was multiple days of that afterwards. And, eventually, after those 3 months, I guess, yeah, 2, 3 months of that relapse, it came to a point where I had a really bad night in front of like all of my friends. I'd like ruined a night, saying a lot of concerning things, and um just had a really bad blackout, and didn't I had to be told like everything that happened the night before, and I was just kind of like back to square one. And my best friend like sat me down the next day and was like, "You were much happier and a much better version of you when you were not drinking. And like, it's okay. You don't have to keep drinking and like figure this out. Like, you can stop now." Um, and I felt like that was really powerful because she really gave me like permission to stop drinking, because I really thought that like if I accepted that I could not have a good relationship with alcohol, that would be like accepting defeat, and kind of being given like the option of sobriety was really amazing. Just sort of like freeing, that she was like, "You don't have to try anymore. Like, we love you and we love who you are all on your own." And uncoordinated, my mom had like literally the same conversation with me the next day. Um, she was like, "I'm just tired of seeing you like this. Like, you're a shell of yourself after you go out." And I agreed with her. I mean, the next day I was a zombie anytime that I would drink. So, she said the same thing to me, and that eventually, between those two conversations, once somebody else says it to you like that, like it's kind of nail in the coffin. And so I agreed, I'm not going to drink anymore. And that was the day that I stopped drinking. But, I think after that, my, um, marijuana usage picked up. I was already sort of a pothead. I was living in California at the time and used the California sober excuse, but that didn't work for me. Like, I was using it every night to fall asleep. And, um, I do know a lot of people who are successfully California sober. I'm just not one of them. And, eventually I moved to New York, and I realized that, none of my friends here that live in New York smoke. And I was having a lot of fun like going out without it, because I wasn't really a social smoker, because I kind of go nonverbal and like fall asleep. So, um, I just realized like I think it's done for me. I don't think this is, doing it for me anymore. I feel really like lazy, and it's kind of bringing me down. Like, it wasn't having the desired effect anymore. And I eventually just gave that up too. And that was almost a year ago today. So now I'm, sober. Um, and like, I love my life. I'm a different person than I was when I was drinking. And I wouldn't say that I'm like a different person necessarily than I was when I was smoking. Like, I think I was a lot of the same that I was. I don't think weed had like the same effect. Like, I was addicted to alcohol. That's no question about it. I think I kind of had like maybe a little bit of a dependence on weed, but like giving that up wasn't hard for me. Um, but I'm just so happy to be sober now, and like the mental clarity and all of the other things that I've been given from a life of sobriety is like remarkable. And here we are.
So many similarities, I feel like, with your story and mine, especially like when you're in college, it doesn't stick out that much because it's very, everyone else is kind of in the same boat. And then it's like after college, it's like, oh, you're the only one still doing that, actually.
That's something I've learned in my sobriety. Like, my friends are so well behaved, and I'm just like in shock all of the time now because
Yeah.
I'll go out with friends and I'm like, you guys, I think I was the problem. Like, I was making everyone drink more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I feel the same. I feel like you said so many things, even especially I know we've talked about this, but like giving up drinking for a while and then diving back in thinking like it must be better this time. Like I've done this work for you. It was like for a year, right? For me, it was 4 months. I was like, I've done all this work. It must be better if I try again. Like I'm in such a better place. And then doing it and having it be so much worse, like worse than you could have even imagined. And like, you're right, like blacking out so much easier. Um, and you're really just faced with yourself of like, oh wow, like no matter how much work I do on myself, no matter how much I try to fix this, I can't. And there is some like freedom in that a little bit of knowing that like no matter what you do, you can't change it.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like a freeing moment to finally admit that I was an alcoholic, as much as I thought that admitting it would be defeat. Like, it really was okay. Like, it's okay. Like, there is an explanation for all this.
Yeah. Um and so I guess on our topic today, we were going to talk a lot about dating, and people who listen always ask us about
Yeah.
dating and sobriety. I get so many DMs from girls and they're like, dating, dating. And I'm like, I am so fucking useless for this topic. Like, I've never gone on a sober first date. So, like, I'm so happy to talk to you two about it because I feel like you have such a good perspective on it that I don't. So, what has your experience, Neva, been like sober dating?
Oof. uh, well, I've dated. I will say that what I do get from sober dating, I do consider it like a competitive advantage, because there's none of that like you go on a couple of dates, you're really drunk on the first couple of dates, and then you hang out sober, and then you figure out if you like them. Like, day one, you just kind of get right into it. And I think that's like a great thing. You have so much clarity. I've dated sober guys, I've dated not sober guys. I'm still trying to figure out if I have a preference. Um, you know, dating someone with the same problems as you is kind of a double-edged sword because they get it, but then at the same time, it's like if you're both struggling with the same thing, it's kind of like like, we can't both be struggling, you know what I mean? Like, we can't both be problematic. Um, and so sometimes, I was in a relationship for like a couple of months with someone else who's in the program, and it eventually was us having the same problem that ended our relationship. Um, then I've dated another sober guy who he was sober, but he wasn't in the program. So we just, you know, maybe that was a little bit um tumultuous, I guess, because we were on the same path sort of, but he got sobriety, but I guess he didn't understand like the way that I was doing it. So that there's that too. And then, I've dated guys who are not sober, and I really don't think somebody drinking bothers me. Unless of course they're like a heavy drinker, but like I'm really not bothered at this point in my life by someone who drinks. Um, but I will say like drugs, that's a different story for me. Like, I definitely couldn't date a pothead, but I could date someone who drinks, if that makes sense. I don't
Yeah.
know. I still haven't decided necessarily. Like, I don't want to write one thing off or another. Um, so I'm kind of like open to these things, but I feel like it's just like a personal preference. Like, you just have to decide more so someone that aligns with your lifestyle. Like, I'm not gonna date someone who's, sober and doesn't wanna go out and doesn't wanna do anything, but I'm also not gonna date someone who's, um, not sober, but wants to go out all of the time, 5 nights a week. Like, there's kind of a balance of, like, I'm someone who does enjoy going out a couple nights a week and I don't drink. So you kind of have to find someone who has your lifestyle and like someone's going to align with it. Like I was seeing someone recently who was not sober and he like went out to a concert until 7 a.m. And I was like, I don't think this is going to work. I really don't think this is going to work.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is like the lifestyle thing I feel like is the biggest piece because like your lifestyle does change a lot like when you don't drink anymore. And so I would never mind someone who does drink, but it definitely can't be like a focal point of their life because it's not a focal point of my life. And so there's just gonna be like a clash. Even someone who's super sweet and supportive of what you're doing, like if what they're really doing on the weekends is going out and drinking, that eventually is going to clash with how you want to spend your time. So I feel like that was the biggest thing is realizing like, oh, yeah, I get along with these guys who drink, but we don't want to do the same thing on the weekend. And it's just very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. That's like that's the only thing I can answer for when girls are in my DMs. There are some girls who will message me that they're in a relationship with someone and that person parties a lot still and or is like a casual drinker and drinks, wine on a weeknight every night. And it's really hard to get sober when the person you're dating is someone who drinks that frequently. Like I'm lucky that my husband doesn't drink like that. If he was someone who was having a drink on the couch every single night, I don't know if I ever would have gotten sober if I had stayed with him because it would have been really, really hard. Okay, walk me through because I'm even curious about this. So, walk me through your first sober dates. You were sober, you're going on your first date with someone, and this is the first time you're like not drinking on a date.
My first sober date, I guess, was my ex-boyfriend when I was living in California, but I was California sober at that point and eventually drank again after that. But yeah, we started dating within like 3 weeks of our first date because the first date was like dead sober. We wanted a hike. We went to lunch and like we started dating sort of immediately. It was interesting though because I feel like there was no like dating in college. It was like you do things in reverse in college. It's like you hook up and then maybe you date, but then in the real world, I guess it's like you go on a date and then you hook up and then maybe you date. Like I feel like that may not even be a confined to sobriety thing, but I think sobriety maybe just like makes you a little more selective, I will say.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you definitely, I feel like some people are uncomfortable with, like, I would still go on like a drink and or a date and have drinks. And like, I'm fine just getting a Coke or getting a mocktail or whatever. Sometimes I can definitely sense a bit of like uncomfortableness from them that they're kind of like, well, what are you gonna do? And like, they don't realize how comfortable you are with it. And I think it's coming from a good place. They just want to make sure you're comfortable. But I also feel like I was going on walking dates. That was always a good sober. And I think people get really nervous about how they could possibly vibe with someone sober on a date. But like we're talking about with knowing if you have a vibe with someone, if there's a vibe, there's a vibe. And if you don't have a vibe with someone, you sober, you don't have one at all. And so it's very apparent on a date when you're not drinking if you like them or not. Whereas, like Neva, like you said, it could be several dates in before then you realize, oh, this person's actually not that much fun to hang out with. So I think sober dates in the beginning I was a little uncomfortable, like, telling people that I don't drink, but the date itself to me has never been super uncomfortable or anything, especially with a guy who's interested in you. They usually are trying to be super understanding and thoughtful and want to pick out a place to go get mocktails, so that's also another, like, telltale way to if a guy's, like, really interested in you is, they're super sweet and thoughtful about the not drinking thing.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. I think you kind of have to get creative in
Yeah.
sobriety. The easy thing is like, okay, let's go get drinks. And then you say, oh, by the way, I don't drink. Can we do something else? And then you can go on a walk. Like I do prefer like walking dates, or I mean, you could go get like coffee or do like an activity. I feel like, or ice, like, even just like ice cream, like something like that. That's just so much better than like, and they have to be more intentional about it. Like drinks is like the easiest thing. Maybe they'll commit to a dinner with you or something like that. So I think it's totally like an advantage of like, okay, this is a great way to weed someone out too, and test someone's like emotional maturity too.
And I think it also goes along with kind of what we're saying about lifestyles lining up. Guys who are not super into drinking and are not drinking all the time are less uncomfortable with the idea of going on a date that's not drinks. Whereas I feel like only people who are super big drinkers are like, well, what could we possibly do that's not drinks? You know what I mean? So those two, it's kind of like they go hand in hand. Someone who's not a huge drinker and is not drinking 24/7 is not super weirded out by a date that doesn't involve drinks.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like in the women's coffee and conversations we've had at the maze, a lot of the girls have suggested, like, especially if you're using the apps, putting in one of your questions that you don't drink. That way, it's like you get the guys that are okay with that right off the bat, and you kind of wean off the ones that aren't.
Yeah.
Um, and we've definitely heard, like, I've heard some horror stories from friends of like men being pushy on dates of like, why aren't you having a drink, or making them feel kind of weird that they don't drink.
Red flag.
Yeah, huge red flag, right?
Yeah.
But, like, when you're on a date, when you're sober, you are able to kinda clock if there's a vibe or not, and you're able to kind of figure out if you like someone much quicker. So it's like, "Okay, you're making me feel weird. We don't really have as much in common as I thought. We're saving a lot of time doing this." Whereas, like, if you were drinking, I feel like if I was drinking on dates, and when I did drink on dates, I wouldn't have been able to distinguish if I liked the guy or if I liked the fact that I was drinking alcohol and was drunk.
Oh, 100%. I used to say that I could get
Yeah.
a drink
Agreed.
with a wall. Like, I could get a drink with anyone, and
Right.
that was the problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Of
Um,
course you were having fun. You were drunk.
Yeah, exactly,
right.
like, that was the date.
There have been some girls did message and say, though, like, every man they've dated has been very proud of their sobriety or whatever. We had some girls say that. Um, the right guy will be, like, protective of your sobriety and want the best for you. But then we've also had girls say that, they mention that they go to AA, or they mention that they're sober and they get ghosted. So I guess it can go either way.
Great way to weed people out though.
Yeah.
Really.
It really is because it's something that's so, like, unique and special to you, and someone who's super interested in you and cares about you is gonna feel the same way about it that you do, and someone who's not, it's I feel like looking back at all the sober dates I've been on, it's extremely obvious who's interested in you and respectful of your sobriety and all of that, and who is not.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've become, like, a little bit more selective in the significant others you pick in sobriety? Like, on dates, do you feel like your standards are a little bit higher for yourself, or do you feel like it's the same?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next question.
Yeah, I would say I think I have a lot too of like, I feel like I'm just like, I have a lot of standards and like boundaries specifically about like my lifestyle. And, I worked so hard to be as happy as I am and have the life that I have. And like, you're going to have to be adding to that and have something really special to like come into my life at this point. Cause I love my life and I love myself, and I really enjoy being single, honestly. And so if you're really not adding to that, like I'm not gonna waste my time.
Which is huge for, like, a 25-year-old to say, because not that I'm that much older than you, but I don't feel like I was saying that at 25 years old. I was just happy because I was such a mess. I was just happy that someone was, like, putting up with me, you know?
Definitely felt that way for a while. Definitely when I was drinking, I just was like, yeah, like this guy's giving me attention. Like I'll hang out with him until I get bored, or someone else comes along. But now it's like, you know, I guess that's like a huge thing about sobriety too, is like you get to be selective about your time. Cause like when you're drinking, it doesn't matter, like we were saying before, like it really doesn't matter who you're with. If you're drinking, it doesn't matter if it's your best friend or some person you just met, like, your experience is the same. So, I feel like at this point, like, I'm so present for my entire life, so who I spend my time with, whether that be a partner or on a date or, like, with a friend, is a lot more selective.
That's what I was gonna say, like, when you're like, getting sober, you're so intentional about everything, and that just applies to dating so much.
Yeah, I feel like you're intentional and also you like yourself more, so you don't mind spending time by yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I love spending time alone. I don't know. I feel like you're not scared to be alone with your thoughts anymore because you're not ashamed and embarrassed and overthinking everything you've ever done anymore. I think like from my opinion, and Carter, you can probably speak to this a little bit too now because Carter is newly booed up. She has a
Newly booed up.
new boyfriend. But all three of us have been in relationships when we were struggling with alcohol. And I think there is also a lot of people who struggle with that as well. Um, when I think about myself and like how much I struggled with alcohol in my relationship, I'm really able to see how much better I show up now in my relationship. And I'm wondering if you guys had that experience or like what your experience was like struggling with drinking in a relationship.
Carter, you wanna go? You
So,
go
yeah,
first.
I'll go. So, I was with my long-term boyfriend that I was on and off with for, like, 5 years in the process of trying to quit drinking one time, going back to it, trying to quit again, like, all of that was throughout this whole thing, and then it ended up, like I mean, we broke up for a million reasons, but it definitely I quit drinking probably, like, 3 or 4 months before we broke up, and it definitely I think the competing lifestyles was definitely a major thing, but I remember it was so funny, that was one of the things that kind of got me to quit in the end was I remember when I was single before I met him, I was like, if I could just be in a relationship, I could just get this drinking thing under control. I'm just drinking because I'm single and I have to be going on dates. And then when I was in the relationship, I was like, this would just be so much easier to deal with if I was single because I wouldn't be having to deal with another person's opinions and experience. And then, like, that made me realize I was like, it doesn't matter if I'm single or in a relationship, like, my relationship with alcohol has to do with me. And I need to get this figured out and fixed, whether I'm single or in a relationship. Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, especially when being single, are afraid to quit drinking. And then also in a relationship, like, you've built up a whole dynamic with this person where that's how you spend your weekends. It's how you spend your evenings after work. You've built up a whole life with this person around drinking. And the thought of, like, changing that dynamic, which again, with my relationship, ultimately did change the dynamic and made me realize it wasn't going to work. Um, but I think all of that definitely made me think about, like, ultimately it's just me and what's going to make me happy with drinking, and all the rest of it, comes and goes.
I totally agree with, like, the tumultuousness of being in an on and off relationship while you're trying to figure
Mm.
out your relationship with substances. Like,
Mhm.
uh, I got into a relationship, like, 2, 3 months after I stopped drinking. I was, like, I was California sober at the time, and I didn't know if I was an alcoholic. I didn't know if sobriety was gonna be permanent for me, and so I was having trouble conceptualizing all these things on my own, and I was growing and changing so quickly and trying to figure that out on my own at the same time as explaining it to a new person that I just started dating. So I'm kind of going through, like, 5 stages of grief about my relationship with alcohol and kinda coming to terms with it. And then also still though, like, saying, "But, like, yeah, I had a bad relationship with alcohol, but, like, I don't think it was that bad," and, like, not trying to be alarmist, like, all these
Mhm.
different things that I was sort of balancing at the same time. And I will say, like, I understand after having gotten into a relationship so early on in my sobriety why they say that you shouldn't do that because, like, you are changing a mile a minute in sobriety, like, in the past, however long. I feel like I've grown, like, 10 years in one of sobriety, so the way that I was changing on, like, a rapid basis every single day was hard for even me to keep up with, let alone someone who's trying to get to know me as I'm changing every single day. So I understand the rule. And obviously, I have no regrets about, entering that relationship. Like, you fall in love when you fall in love. But I understand why it is something that you should be like cautious about, because I was even confused about who I was. How am I supposed to expect someone else to understand me?
Yeah. It definitely makes sense, and they do say that, right, in the rooms. They're like, "You're not supposed to date in the first year," and oftentimes people don't listen to that rule, naturally because we're human beings and we are attracted to other people and whatever, but it is, you are changing so much, especially those first, like, 6 months, because you're finally, like, faced with yourself after however many years of not really looking into yourself or looking inward. Like, I feel like I felt like a pretty introspective person when I was drinking. Like, I was in school for mental health counseling and I loved journaling and meditating and I loved like learning about myself and my psychology and everything. And I mean, when I got sober, I felt like I knew myself, but like you just start to uncover parts of yourself that were completely overshadowed by alcohol that you weren't even able to get in touch with when you were drinking.
Totally agree. I feel like I was kind of having an identity crisis when I got sober. It was like, "Oh my god, I'm so much different than I thought I was," and in a good way. Like, I feel like we all kind of accepted that, like, getting really blacked out all the time was, like, my thing, and, like, that was just my personality. But then I'm sober and I'm like, "Wait, no, that wasn't my thing. That was a disease of alcoholism." Like, that wasn't my, like, niche, like, um, and I'm like, "Okay." So, in those first 6 months, I mean, I would say, like, the first 3 months are kind of like, "Whoa," and then, get to 6 months and you're kind of, like, settling in. I feel like that's when I honestly started to struggle more, was, like, the 6-month mark, because like, in the beginning, I, like, was sort of dating, like, right away, was like, whatever, that rule, and getting into it, and then I was like, "Okay, maybe I should spend some time by myself."
I feel like Bree, I'm curious from your perspective, like being in a long-term relationship when you quit, kind of like what was difficult or I mean, it's easier when you're with the right person who's supportive and also not a big drinker. But I can imagine that it would definitely be you know, to make that big of a change and so many like things that you learn about yourself and again this change that you're making while you're in a long-term with relationship with someone who knows you as one way.
Yeah. I think at my core, my personality stayed the same, and I wasn't the kind of drinker who was an angry drinker or who picked fights typically. Like, of course, I
Mhm.
did a few times because 'cause I'm just a girl, but, like, that wasn't my MO, and he was so supportive, and I always say I didn't get sober for him, but I would not be sober without him. Like, he really held up a mirror to me, and I think that's the one thing that for anyone who's dating, like, one thing I liked about my now husband when we started dating was that he never saw me as a perfect person, and he never wanted me to be a perfect person, like, he never wanted me to change, but we both were always very good at being like, "This is something you can improve on and work on," and we both never took it offensively, but, like, we just wanted the best for each other, and we've never shied away from uncomfortable conversations like that, and so, I mean, if you ask him now, like, there are times where we're at a bar and I'm like, "I'm gonna go home," and I want him to stay and have fun, and, like, the next day I'll be like, "Do you ever wish I still drank?" And he's like, "Fuck no." Like, he's like, "Jesus Christ, like, why are you even asking me that?" So, like, I think his life improved exponentially and so did mine. I think the one thing I noticed was, like, the way I show up in the relationship is a million times better as a sober person, and I feel like, you fall in love with someone when you start dating them. I was 22 when I started dating my husband, I'm 30 now, right? So that's a long time, and, like, you fall in love, but, like, it's kinda lust in the beginning, right? Like, you're obsessed with each other the first year you start dating. And then from like 24 to 27, I really struggled with drinking, which was the bulk of our relationship. And things weren't always easy. And I feel like when I got sober again, I really fell in love with him in like a different way because I liked myself. And I feel like I was able to give and receive love. Like, I don't think I was able to receive it really for the entire time we were dating, at least not properly. Um, because I was just like basking in shame. And so I think that's the one major thing I've noticed a difference in. It just feels like more authentic and I just feel like I'm more worthy of it and I'm definitely better at giving it. Um,
Yeah,
when
like
you
you're
drink, I just
this is you showing up as your authentic self. So like being able to step into the relationship like as your best self for the first time in a while. And also I think when you're with someone who really, really loves you at your core, like they recognize that this is the best version of you and they like and want that version for you and for them.
totally. And it's sad because I hear from a lot of girls that, their boyfriends or their significant others or their husbands, like, aren't that supportive of their sobriety. And 100% of the time, I think it's because those men don't want to change their own habits and don't want to have
Totally.
to like look at themselves. But I can't even fathom being with someone who would watch me suffer the way I suffered. And it really, like, you get it. Like, you both get it. It's really, you're suffering. I can't imagine someone looking at you like that and being like, oh, it's going to be like so annoying if you change this thing about you because then I'm going to have to change my own habits. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yes.
I think it's an interesting experience. And I've dated people. I think when I asked you both before if you feel like your standards have changed since you stopped drinking, I think about the people I slept with and dated in college and like it was completely alcohol. Neva's covering her face. Like it's completely revolves around alcohol. Like entirely. I can't even think about
No, it's
I don't
scary.
even know what I was thinking.
It is so it's, like, wild, like, I still to this day, like, that's something that I really struggled with in early sobriety that I was like, "What like, what was wrong with me?" Like, I mean, we first of all, we did not like ourselves, we were miserable, we were looking for literally anything to make us feel better, even for a second. No inhibitions whatsoever when you're that drunk. And just, oh my God, like I do not miss waking up in the morning and being like, why on God's green earth was that something I thought was a good decision last night? Like that I do not miss.
It's so
Ugh.
scary.
Yeah, it is really scary. I think about my college relationship, and I distinctly remember the first 2 months we were dating, I didn't remember sleeping with him once. I remember him asking me being like, "You don't remember it again?" And I was like, "No, bet. I don't remember it at all."
Oh
Like,
my
"What is that?" And I was like,
gosh.
"I'm in love." Like, "Bitch, what?"
Like, no, you have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, girly. And that was the beginning of the end, of course. Like, of course you have a problem. But yeah, it is just so different. And, Neva, you're like working the steps, I think, right? Like, I dipped out early at step 4, but like when you're in the rooms, they have you do a sex inventory for your 12 steps. And you basically have to write out every single person you've been with. And I was like, I'm not doing that.
I'm actually gonna see myself out.
I don't like that's not why I stopped. Okay, something happened and I stopped before that. But like I remember thinking to myself like those characters have no place having their name on a piece of paper at the ripe age of 30. I'm not writing out that boy's name. Also, couldn't remember half of them if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, that list is gonna have a lot of question marks.
I also, on the flip side, think I missed out on some great guys that I went on dates with because I would black out, act like a fool, like, make a fool of myself or whatever it was that I was embarrassed about, and then, ghost them or never talk to them because I like couldn't handle how I had acted. And I was
Oh
like,
my God,
oh,
1000%.
I was like, I personally need this erased from my memory. And unfortunately, that does mean you too. So goodbye. And it would be like a nice guy who was obviously like not totally scared away, but I was like, this needs to be burned from my brain. I'm so sorry.
I would just associate you with my
Yes.
behavior, so
Yes.
you had to
You had
leave.
you
I would
had to
agree.
go.
You had to
Oh
go. I had to
man.
leave immediately without saying anything, and you had to exit my life.
No, so
Right.
many good
And I'm
guys.
and we wish them well and we wish them well and I'm sure they're doing fine. And I'm sure
Yes.
they probably don't even remember. It's probably worse in your head than it was in theirs.
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
we have to tell
I
ourselves.
Exactly. I ruined some really nice date nights with my now husband. One in
Oh my God.
particular, I remember I got on him about not planning dates enough. I was like, "You never plan dates, blah, blah, blah." And so he did. So he did. So he was like, "I'm gonna take you to a paint and sip, like a wine and sip." Um,
Oh no.
and I did black out at the wine and sip.
Of course.
And I was like, "This isn't working anymore." And he was like, "What?" Like, the one date he plans,
The
my
man
painting was
plans a paint and
awful. My
sip.
painting was awful.
That's
Wow.
hysterical. Ugh,
I know. It's okay,
poor
though.
guy. It's okay.
No, he's fine.
He
Um,
plans the paint and sip and he's got Miss Belligerent
Blacked
blackout.
you out at the paint and sip.
Miss Belligerent. No, I literally was Miss Belligerent.
Everyone else in
Ugh.
the class was probably like, this is their last date.
Right, right.
But imagine
Yeah.
that was like your first date and you like blacked out at a paint and sip. Like,
That was but what that was so funny about, like, some guys, like, were not, like,
oh,
scared off by it, and I'm like, "I cannot believe that you wanna see me again. There's no way
Well,
that you do."
Carter, maybe they were just as blacked out as you and you don't remember that part.
Yeah, I definitely do think that that was probably some of it.
I
Um,
agree. I mean, how could we possibly have a read on anyone else's
yeah,
drunkenness and
who's
we're
to
blacked
say?
out?
Because I actually wasn't on the date, so who knows if they were blacked out or not.
Wasn't even there.
That's one thing about being sober is you can catch a vibe so much better than you used to. Like, I feel like not guys, because guys kind of just repulse me in general, but like any girl I met when I was drinking, I was like, "I love you. Like, we're besties." And then, like, now I meet people and I'm like, "I don't think that I like you very much." And it's definitely someone I would have just spent the night with up until 4 a.m. because I like wanted to drink with them.
Yep.
Yep.
I feel the
Again,
same way and with anyone that I'm spending time with, like you really, I've re-met people in my sobriety that were around when I was drinking and been like, what did we ever speak about?
No,
Like,
yeah,
literally.
the
oh,
standards are up here.
The
and
standards
with
have
guys
definitely gotten
too.
better.
Oh my God, I ran into like someone like a literally like an ex fling situationship, whatever you want to call it, from college. And I like ran into him on the street and I swear to God, I couldn't think of one thing to say to this person. Like, and I know that we were like thick as thieves when we were both like drinking and using drugs. And then now I see him sober and I'm just like, my mind is blank.
I got nothing.
You got nothing. But isn't that a beautiful thing?
It is.
Look at us now.
So, I guess, Carter, I have a question for you.
Mm.
So, Carter, you are in the unique situation where you dated someone when you were actively drinking, um, and broke up with them. And now you are in a relationship where you have been fully sober the entire time. And I'm curious if you feel like dating sober has sped up the intimacy, um, with that person. Like, do you feel like you've gotten to know them better and quicker?
I actually kind of feel like maybe intimacy moves a little slower because you are not, I mean, slower and faster, I guess, because on the one hand, like you're not just wasting all these dates getting blackout with each other, but at the same time, like you are being slower and more intentional and like getting to know each other. And so I don't know, like I guess there's less wasted time where you're just like getting drunk together and you're actually having real conversations and you're like really getting to know each other. But it does, something about it does also feel slower and more intentional than just going out and partying together every single weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe it is faster in some sense, but it's a lot deeper, I think, quicker,
I love that. That's
you know?
beautiful, Carter.
Isn't that was beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I'm really happy for you. So I want you guys quick off the top of your head, if you could think of 3 tips to give someone going on their first sober date or going on a sober date. What are 3 tips you're giving them before they go?
Okay, number one, which we've talked about before, like the more confident you are in being sober and not drinking, like that energy, people can feel it. And so if you go in a little insecure and wobbly about it, not that there's anything wrong with that, and it is hard to act super confident, especially if you haven't been haven't been not drinking for a short period of time, but confidence in your decision not to drink, number 1. Um, what's another one? I feel like game planning, like, okay, what kind of date do I want? When do I wanna tell them I'm not drinking? Do I wanna tell them right away? Like, sorta having this game plan of how you want to approach you not drinking from start to finish.
When you said game planning, I was like, "Oh," and I was like, I thought you meant picking, like, a Knicks game, a
Ah,
hockey game, and I was like, "Okay," like an
game
activity.
planning? Okay, first of
Go
all,
on,
That's
go
not a
on with
bad
what you were
idea.
saying.
no,
Go
it's
on with what
not.
you were saying.
Game planning, like, what you're gonna say about just also, they're probably gonna ask why you don't drink. So I like to, instead of, like, fumbling over what I wanna say, like, I try to think about, like, what is an answer what answer do I wanna be telling people that? And I think that goes hand in hand with confidence too. It's like, if I'm confident about the answers and my explanations and what I wanna share with people, that's gonna come across. So, confidence, game planning, nothing to do with sports. Oh, and also picking what drink. Like, instead of, like, fumbling over, like, "Oh, a mocktail," or, "I don't drink," it's like, I know in my head I'm gonna get a Coke, and I confidently order a Coke. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like these are, like, important things to not fumble over on a date that can get a little, like, nerve-wracking, but if you go in kind of, like, thinking about these things, it's a little better.
Yeah. They seem small, but they'll make a big difference.
They seem small, but in the moment, they're actually freaking huge when you're, like, fumbling over the mocktail menu, and it's like, "Nope, I sat down, I got a Coke, this is why I don't drink." Some of these are avoidable flops.
Right.
I
Neva, can you
agree.
think of
I
any?
think planning ahead has always, like, done me better. I've been on one date where I didn't tell him ahead of time that I don't drink, and I showed him to a drinks date, and he was already, like, sitting at the bar with a drink, and I was like, "Oh, by the way, I don't drink," and it was super awkward. So,
Yes.
I would definitely I would disclose, like, ahead of time that you don't drink so that there's, like, no shock either way. And then, yeah, I mean, share as little or as much as you want, as soon or as late as you want. It's your narrative.
Yep.
So I would agree with all of those things. You don't owe anyone an explanation, honestly. Like, obviously, the 3 of us are all very open about our sobriety, but not everyone is. So, like, I've known people who have gotten into relationships and not told their spouses or boyfriends, whoever, for a while, like, that they were an alcoholic. They're just maybe on the first date, you can say, if you don't know where this is gonna go, you could say you're training for a marathon. Like, say whatever you want.
Yes. Yeah. I think just think about what you wanna say, and what you wanna say can be as much or as little as you want, but then you're less confronted with this awkward question if you already know kind of what you wanna share ahead of time. And I agree with letting them know before the date. I feel like when I was first dating sober, I did not tell people, but then you kind of realize that it just becomes this awkward thing, and it's, like, actually just better to get it out of the way before.
Yeah. It's like going to a party sober, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I, like, was always the worst at like, I just right off the bat had to tell everyone I wasn't drinking, also just to hold myself accountable, because,
Mhm.
like, I can't keep a secret of my own to save my life. Like, I'm just like, "This is what happened," and blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm way too open with it, but everyone's different.
I think what you said about putting it in the profile, honestly. Like, just
Yeah,
don't
people say that's
even just
helpful.
yeah, I feel like when I first started going on dates, I did not do that. I don't know why. I think I was just trying to make it normal, but it's really better to just get it out of the way early.
Yeah. I think that's a good piece of advice too. If I was
Yeah.
dating, that's probably what I would do just to, like, wean out the weirdos.
Yeah. Wean
Yeah.
out.
We wean out the
There's
weirdos.
nothing worse than, like, watching a guy try to conceptualize your alcoholism and try and, like, not be judgmental. Unfortunately, I feel like the majority I mean, as you guys know, like, I go out in the city, so most of the time where I have to say I'm sober or I'm an alcoholic or I don't drink is at bars, ironically. So,
Yep.
there's nothing worse than, like, a guy trying to talk to you holding a beer, and be like, "Oh, that's really cool." And like it's just I'm like, "We don't have to do this. Like you don't have to ask me any more questions. I don't have
Yeah.
to explain myself. Like we could just move on, you know." And I normally don't like volunteer that until someone asks me asks to buy me a drink, really. Because like we're at a
Uh-huh.
bar, I'm here to have fun, you're here to have fun. I don't want to stand in a bar explaining why this substance ruined my life for several years. And you don't want to explain that while, you know, taking a sip. So,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
people naturally try to make you feel more comfortable. Like, I feel like whenever
Yeah.
and I'm very comfortable with it. Like, I own it. It didn't take me long to just own it and be like, "This is who I am," whatever. But people are always like, "Oh, yeah, like, I have a cousin who, like, doesn't drink," and it's because, like or, like, my uncle. And I'm like, "Yeah, we all have an uncle who doesn't drink." Like, it's just not making me feel any better.
we all have a drunkle, okay? That's not helpful.
Yeah, like
But thank you for trying.
Yeah.
yeah. And well, I mean, listening to men try to conceptualize many things is uncomfortable. Um, but especially
Sure.
when they're trying to figure out. I think people try to clock if you have a problem or not. And one listener wrote in that like one time she was on a date and she disclosed that she doesn't drink and she was like, "Oh, I'm heading to a meeting after this." Or she said she was heading somewhere after that. I don't think she disclosed it was an AA meeting. But the guy like insisted on walking her. And then when they got there, she was like, "I'm going to an AA meeting." And he ghosted her, never texted her again.
Stop.
That's crazy. But there you
I
go. She found out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you on last week when when my mic got cut, about the guy who like we were chatting on Hinge and then right before the date. Oh, I know because I was like he kept saying something about like getting drinks or grabbing drinks and so finally I was like, okay, I feel like and this was before I was telling people. Well, I think it was actually after this that I was like, okay, we got to just let people know right away. But he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like you seem so awesome, but I don't think I could date someone that doesn't drink." So, and I was like, "That's so fair." Which it is because it's like again, and he was like, could you date someone who drinks as much as me?" And I was like, I mean, 100% no. But that's a perfect example of like an awkward moment of why it's like just tell them right off the bat. There's no need to get to that weird like,
Yeah. Save yourself the awkwardness.
Yeah, and
yeah,
at this point, like, I don't get offended by that, like, I have a preference around certain people I can and can't date, and so do other people, like, if someone
exactly.
if it really bothers someone or they can't conceptualize dating someone who doesn't drink, like, I'm not taking that personally, they don't know me, they you know?
Yeah, I was
Right.
not offended at all. He was so nice about it. And like it was kind of like, why would we go on this date? You do not see yourself being able to be with someone who doesn't drink. And that wouldn't work vice versa too. So I think politely letting someone know, oh my gosh, like you're great, but this is not going to be a match because our lifestyles don't align is 100% fair.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair. I think what's not fair is someone shaming you for the fact that you don't drink, someone in a relationship shaming you for the fact that you don't drink, or someone shaming you for things you did when you drank repeatedly. Like, that's
Yeah.
not okay. And we hear about that a lot. And like, I did have to have a conversation about that with my husband once. Like, we were going to weddings when I was sober, and he meant no harm, but like, we'd be at the wedding and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm really like" it was his way of saying, "I'm really glad you're not drinking right now." But he would be like, "Around this time is when you usually would be really blacked out and blah, blah, blah." And I would get like triggered and I'd be like, "Can you stop bringing it up?" Like,
Yeah, like
I know
that's
that
enough.
and he was like, "What I'm trying to say is I'm really happy you're not like that." And I'm like, "Great. Then I need you to say that. I need you to not recount what I would have been doing in this moment because I don't want to think about it."
Yeah,
Um
that's so
but
funny. That's
anyone shaming you or making you feel like what you're doing is, like, you totally your fault or, like, you should be embarrassed or, like, not being supportive, like, that's not helpful or healthy.
yeah.
Yeah, Bree, we've had this conversation before, definitely, I have experience with this as well, and it's tough, like, especially when you're already having those thoughts yourself about, like, you know, you're carrying a lot of guilt and shame about your past and like you're going through that and we all do and like especially in early recovery like coming to terms with things that we've done and having someone reinforce those things and make you feel worse about things that you already feel bad about is not a situation that you should ever be in. And like even at your worst, you're still lovable and you're still like someone that you should be proud of. Like no one should ever make you feel like any version of you is not, worthy of love.
Right. And I think
100%.
from a mental health perspective, if I had a client telling me that like their significant other was repeatedly shaming them or making them feel bad, then you need to leave. Like if you're going to be that person in the relationship who's going to repeatedly shame someone and make them feel bad, then you shouldn't be in the relationship with that person. Otherwise, you're just doing this weird thing where you want to have the upper hand and like make them feel bad and make them, I don't know, make them feel lesser than you. Like otherwise, just step out of the relationship if it's that much of a problem.
Yeah, they should be
Totally.
building you up.
Right.
And also,
Just
especially in relationships where, like, I'm now sober, this is the version you have of me for the rest of my life. You weren't even there for the bad parts. Like why does my past in any capacity, whether you're an alcoholic or not, like my past should have no bearing on our future. And I think especially in alcoholism where it's like you were saying before, like we were struggling, like we were suffering during that period of time. So why would you judge someone for the way that they handled like basically the worst period of time in their life and make them feel even worse for it is unacceptable, and bringing those things up repeatedly is super toxic.
so toxic. And like you recognize that now, right? Like having been in a relationship that kind of was like that. Like the fact that you can say that now and be like, I would never accept that behavior again.
No, that's a good thing about too, like the standards changing, like things that I put up with in early sobriety, even not even um, you know, during alcoholism, like even in early sobriety when I was still kind of figuring things out, like I put up with things last year I would never put up with today.
Yeah. I say the same thing about any like jobs or, friends. Like your standards for life become so much higher.
Because I think because you're so present for everything, like what would do before just will not do now.
No,
Yeah.
no, definitely not. All right. So, Neva, one thing we like to ask people who come on, aka the only other one guest we've had, but we're going to ask the rest of the guests too, is what is advice you would give to someone who is on day one of not drinking or who is considering getting sober?
I would say you do not need to do this alone. A lot of us are, suffering in silence. That's why all three of us, are recovering out loud for those suffering in silence. Like you are not alone. You do not have to do this alone. You are not the only person on earth who has ever felt like this, experienced this. And I think as soon as possible, meet someone else, however that may be, whether it be reaching out to someone you know who is sober or even DMing someone that you've seen online, even if you don't know them, going to an AA meeting, like just talk to someone about it. Like even if you're not sure if you need to be sober or you're not sure if you're an alcoholic, like talking to other people who have experience is so helpful. And I think I was able to stop on my own, but I couldn't stay stopped if I didn't meet other people who experienced what I experienced and who could validate everything that I was feeling. Um, so yeah, you do not need to be alone. This disease wants us alone. Disease wants us isolated, and we have to really fight that. And the opposite of addiction is connection. So you got to find your people.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
This was
Hey.
so much fun. I loved this conversation. I feel like everyone loves the sober dating conversation. And I feel like even my friends who are not sober are like, I'm kind of jealous that you just like get right into it, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
we've been wanting to have this because I feel like people think it's so scary too, and there are things about it that are uncomfortable or scary, but, like, for the most part, like, again, you have such a new confidence being sober that, like, I don't know, I it's not something that was super, super scary to me, it's just different, but I don't know, I hope people are getting out there and are not afraid of quitting drinking because they're afraid of being single sober.
that's probably a real fear for a lot of people.
A
I
hundred
mean, listen,
percent.
Definitely a
you
fear
can
of
always find a
missing.
fear. You can always find a fear. My fear was getting sober and being sober at my wedding, and look what happens. Like, you can
Same.
always find a reason not to do it. Don't make dating be your reason.
And none of it is as bad as whatever story is in your head about it.
No.
Also, how could you ever possibly hold a stable relationship when you're acting like that and feeling like that?
No, exactly. Blacking out and going home with people certainly wasn't doing anyone any favors, so sober dating can only be better. It can only go up from there.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. Well,
Mm,
thanks, ladies. This was so fun.
Yeah, it
thanks.
was.
So much fun.